Anyway, let's explore the rest of this area. I'll probably be back for the short bow at some point, but we'll see. Here is another combat encounter that is, you know, a different flavor than the ones that you've been encountering. They do a lot to, you know, give you very interesting combat encounters here, you know, very different combat encounters, just to teach you about the various elements that the game can have. It's good design, and I really like it. You can't sprint up ladders in this game, and I don't think you can sprint down them either, which is a shame. That was a good thing they added in Dark Souls 2. Got some throwing knives. Quite a useful item at this phase in the game. Kind of falls off later. And you'll notice we are now on the roof of the place that had the jump, and it's much easier to just roll or jump here and get on there. I'm not 100% sure if you can even make that jump, so this is the way to go. We are now on the second floor of that house, and you'll notice that we actually could have gotten up here if not to the... Go away. If not for the fact that the stairs were destroyed. This is a functional house. It's, you know, dilapidated. It's been basically destroyed, but it is still a house. There's a lovely little terrace over here where you can find crossbow bolts and a crossbow that you may not have seen, but, you know, that were always there to show you, yeah, you can go over here. Sure. It's so good. Alright, fine. I guess I'll deal with you. Get back over to here. Everything is connected. Everything is set up. Oh dear. I accidentally did a jumping attack there. Got all of them. Also, that was a bit weird. He threw the firebomb into this by accident, and the explosion damage still caught me. There is some silly interaction in this. Still love how it's all set up. Alright, but that's that taken care of. I would rest at a bonfire, but at this point it won't actually reset our Estus flasks. The reason for that is that we had 10 to begin with from the Firelink Shrine bonfire, which is kindled. This fire is not kindled. They, at some point, made it so that every bonfire tended by a firekeeper, who was the mute lady that we didn't talk to, or that we couldn't talk to, is automatically kindled. That was not in the game at release, but it's sort of a nice lore touch, love it. B, a mercy to newer players, so that you can always go to Firelink Shrine and get 10. If you're paying attention, you can also see the ladder that is up here, that is a shortcut that we will unlock after we finish the entire Undead Burg area. Again, really nice touch. Can't do anything with it now, can later. This is another interesting combat challenge. You immediately notice these guys because they're very loud and very throwy firebombing. If you go and buy a bow, you can snipe them to kind of take the stress away from this, but we don't need that. Of course, if you rush in all panicked like, you suddenly run into a 3-enemy encounter that very quickly turns into a 4-enemy encounter. Or, sorry, 2-enemy encounter that turns into a 3-enemy encounter. One of them with a stronger hollow. Hello there. This little circle down here is a miracle resonance. It is something that took people a long time to figure out. Partly because it was bugged, but partly just because they're really weird and no one ever explains them to you. Basically, if someone has casted a miracle in their game in an area, sometimes it will leave this little resonance, and if you cast a miracle there, it will get powered up. There's also a locked door here. Doesn't open from this side, but it's another promise of interconnectivity. You'll notice that we've seen 1, 2, 3 different locked doors in the short time that we've been between here and the start point. The game is already promising just how interconnected Metroidvania-y its world is. These guys cannot possibly hit me from here. Keep throwing anyway. Bit of a waste, if you ask me. Open door over here. Another combat encounter. What makes this one interesting is that it's in such a tight space. And there's actually, a lot of guys... was a bit of a risky move, but paid off for me. A lot of guys over here that sneak up on you. But, you know, you get the tight combat encounters as well. Don't think there's no others in here. And you get some, I believe, black fire bombs for your trouble. Which is nice. You get this whole little house setup. You know, so much care was put into setting a dinner table here with a stew pot and a candelabra. It was clearly a house for two. I love it. I love it so much. You know, there's like a dining area over here for bigger things. It could have been like a pub with a private room. They tell so much. There's also this little terrace here that, if you're paying attention, shows you the other side of that door and shows you a staircase that you can't quite get to. Let's go up this way, because it's the only way. Into yet another encounter. You'll notice the game just very gently ramps up all of these encounters. You know? Oof, I did that very poorly. Guy's got an arm on him. But the game very slowly ramps up these encounters, but also makes it so that every single encounter in this area is unique. You know, it just gets more and more difficult as you go along to still try to ease you into the game if you're new to it, but, you know, to provide a real challenge. You don't feel like there's training wheels on at any point here. The first time that I played this game, I spent hours in the Undead Burg, just, you know, understanding everything. Actually have ourselves a bit of an awkward place here, but once you kill one of them, you're generally fine. Convenient that that guy wasn't paying attention to us for a while. We ran out of stamina there. There we go. Grab another soul of a lost undead over here. If you look around further, you can again see an area that you can get to much later in the game. You can also see a little platform that if you're crafty you can fall onto. We're not going to try to do that. It's kind of an open debate whether the game allows you to do certain things, or just tolerates it with abuses of geometry. Our residence key is already paying off for us. This door would just be locked if we didn't have it. Treasure for getting in here is quite useful, actually. Gold pine resin. You'll notice you can also just fall off here to get a different view of the combat encounter we're about to walk into. Kind of see that there's like, okay, there's two dudes over there, but there's actually, you know, a spear guy right over here. Keep your eyes open, and the game will give you a lot of hints about how to play it. Of course, that's not the whole of the combat encounter here. In fact, there's a door over this way, and if you're not paying attention to that, you will not notice that there is actually a crossbow person right over here. So if you rush into a fight with those two soldiers, you will actually be ambushed from behind. The game continues to ramp things up, continues to have little gotcha moments. Alright, it's easiest when you kite these guys. Or at least attempt to. They're not that important. Oh, they also introduced the concept that enemies also have Estus. If you leave them on their own, sometimes they will just... Oh dear, ow. I managed to kill the one, but the other one actually parried me nicely. But enemies can heal themselves if you allow them to. At least undead ones that make sense for them to have Estus. Again, let's stop that. So you've noticed that we're now fighting, you know, the soldiers with the heavy shields and the spear soldiers. And we've gotten 2 spears now. Wow. The game is really ramping it up very quickly with the enemy types. And you understand that just through the visual language that it presents. You go over on this side, you get a much better view of the parish. Like, that is a very parish-looking structure with those, I don't know, hexagonal points. I don't want to call them minarets, because that's not really a church thing, but... You see that, and if you're actually really observant here, you can see the tops of trees over here, and that's a promise. You know, you're gonna head to a tree area at some point. Now, I in the interest of just getting things done, because I'm a very get things done-y kind of guy, I'm gonna do something that I maybe don't recommend newer players do. Because if you explore down here, you will find a guy who looks a lot different from everyone else. He's not really paying much attention, but you know, that sword, that shield, it looks pretty legit. The horned helmet over here. And you don't do very much damage to him, and he will chase you to the ends of the earth. From Software really likes putting in these kinds of things where it's like a single super powerful enemy in an area that you will eventually see a lot more of, but for you to attempt to attack it now is sort of, you know, it's doable. It's nothing to really stop you from doing it, but it's not easy. That said, this gold pine resin that we got will help us out a little bit. We do need to bait him into a long-running attack. Oop, ow! It's like a truck. So, you need to watch your health in this fight. You need to watch his actions. You will notice that I am not doing very much to stagger him. But that he has such long follow-through with his attacks that, you know, I can weave my attacks in when I know that it's safe. You know, whenever he does that shield thing, he's always going to stab after that and go through. And it's really a very different fighting style than all of the other enemies you face here. You know, you'll notice you can really... You are a lot more in control of other enemies in this area. You can... That's a 4 combo! Oops. You are in a lot more control of other enemies in the area. They will bounce off your shield. You can stagger them with your hits. This guy, you have to actually pay attention. You know, it is very clear that you are not the one in control of this encounter. Ooh, I also messed that up. You gotta be careful with the crossbowman. They're really just meant to throw you off your game. Now, one other one's gonna run up. And I don't want them coming up from behind me, so. But it is, you know, it's a very doable combat encounter. It's not a very hard combat encounter, my death to it aside. But it is a very different combat encounter. Be careful. I'm in a pretty bad position here, and only kind of saved by the fact that this shield guy is blocking the guy who would come much faster. This combat counter actually gets a little harder the second time, because it's scripted the very first time for that soldier to knock the door down, where the second time the door will already be open, so he'll just run out and get you. It's interesting how it does get subtly harder like that. This guy will notice you, the other one further in won't, so we can ignore him. We can also ignore those 3 guys up there. Once you understand the intricacies of an area, it becomes much easier to just navigate it kind of on autopilot. There's areas of the game where that's not true, but this one it certainly is. You know, you get very good at traversing areas very economically. There we go. Retrieval. When you get your souls back, you get both the souls that you were holding and the humanity you were holding. You'll notice we went from 0 to 1 there. And you may be asking, where did we get 1 humanity? Well, let me tell you. Basically, in any area where you haven't killed the boss, to make it so that you can't get yourself into an unwinnable state, you have to be able to summon help. And the only way that you can summon help is to be human and find someone's summon sign. They only appear when you're human, when you're unhollowed. So, because of that, bounces off. And because of that, they need to make it so that you can get humanity even if you're in a part of the game where you can't. Ow. So he attacks through his shield. I forgot about that. You can't actually. So you have to be in an area. They don't want you to get to a point where you have to farm humanity, and so just by killing a certain number of enemies in an area where the boss hasn't yet been killed, you get humanity for free. It's a really subtle, really good game device. We got a Titanite shard there, but they're not very important. And I am apparently unable to learn my lesson, so I'm going to try to fight this guy again. It's worth noting fire bombs will hurt them, but not very much. They are very fire resistant for story reasons. You can definitely backstab that guy, but I'm very bad at it. It's a smaller hitbox than a lot of the other enemies. Alright, let's try this again. I may just speed it up for your viewing pleasure. But maybe not. I don't know if I find anything interesting to say. I mean, as I was saying, you know, this guy, your shield does not interrupt his attacks. And there aren't other enemies that have that in this area. Oh, that was the 4 combo again. See, you gotta be really careful. You know, I know that this is only a 2 combo, so I can even get a second shot in here. And of course, you also have to keep enough stamina for your shield. There we go. They never do more than a 4 combo. So, as long as you get that, you're fine. There we go. You know, you can, when you understand their attack patterns, you can really afford to be a lot more aggressive. And that was only a 3. Which, you know, gives you fewer chances to just die on this fight. It's really is very well set up from a risk-reward perspective. It also teaches you don't keep your shield up all the time like I'm doing, because your stamina spawns much more slowly. There we go. Black Knight sword and a Titanite chunk. If you can beat them, you will get a sword that is ridiculously good for this point in the game. 80 damage, 220 damage. It's a lot heavier, and the game actually treats it as a great sword. Really good addition. And it has a ridiculous requirement as far as, well, not ridiculous, but ridiculous for where we are in the game requirement as far as strength and dexterity go. So, you won't immediately get a break the game weapon for beating this guy, but you will get a very sizable reward. The game does that very, very well, and I like that a lot. Black Knight Sword. Great sword of the Black Knights who wander Lordran, used to face chaos demons. The large motion that puts the weight of the body into the attack reflects the great size of their adversaries long ago. You will notice that a Black Knight sword is a greatsword to us, and a Black Knight greatsword is another category of sword called an ultra greatsword to us. It's really nice, because those are just, you know, big fucking guys. And it shows just, you know, how big and powerful they are, and it shows they had weight because they were fighting chaos demons, they were fighting dragons. Like, the sword is filled with so much mythology. It's great, and I love it. They were guarding a blue tearstone ring. It's kind of crap. Yeah. It will give you better defense when your health is low, but it can save you, but it's often, especially when your health is this, your max health is this low, it doesn't kick in fast enough. Here we also have another "Are you paying attention?" moment. You can see there's a guy there. You can see there's a barrel there. But if you're not paying attention, you will get rammed. Ugh. And then attacked immediately. On an interesting side note, there is actually an area you can fall to from here and kind of make your way back over to this spot down here if you go down that other path. But there's no item there, so there's really no reason to go there. It's kind of weird, because it's the sort of place where they would just put a little item to be like, hey, you paying attention? Yeah, you are. Yeah, you are. Come up to another door, but it's locked. The game is pushing you in one direction now, because we're approaching the first, you know, real boss fight. That said, pay attention. Lizard ahead. Lizard in here? No. But there is definitely a lizard ahead. I know that for sure. Lizard! Oh, he's gonna run away and I'm not gonna get him. Especially if I miss him completely. Hey, I got him. These crystal lizards have been a Souls game thing for a long time. They basically give you really good weapon upgrade items, which is what Titanite is in this game. So, we've made it to the top of this tower, and once again, you were blocked by a broken staircase, which is nice.